Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, we have come online to take you through the ethics of nursing program. We started yesterday, and by the special grace of God, we are here online again to take you through the online learnings. Okay, so in the next few moments, share the video, bring everybody on board, share the video to all the students, and let every student come on board. Let every student come on board. Let every student come on board so that we can all have the class at once. Okay, remember, for the purpose of the pandemic, we cannot be able to have one-on-one classes with you, especially those of you who are far. So this is one of our ways of getting to you so that you can be able to to get your lectures in the comfort of your zone, in the comfort at your workplace, and whatever place you are right now. So continue to share the video and invite almost all the students so that we can be able to be on the same page. So in the next few minutes, I will invite you to share the video. Okay, so like I introduced myself to you, my name is Mr. Prince. I'm one of the lecturers that will be taking you through one of the subjects, or as much as subject that I will be able to take you through. And then by the special grace of God, I believe that we will go through successfully. So thank you for sharing. So if you have any comment, if you have any question to ask, always engage the comment box so that I can be able to read your comment and I can be able to answer every question that you have in there. So yesterday we tried looking at what an ethical principle or ethical guidelines that governs with the nursing profession or the health professions. Okay, so sorry for the interruption. So I took you through a series of activities, a series of guidelines, ethical principles that we need to adopt and practice as health professionals. So today I'm just gonna do a little bit of recaps, and then we will continue from where we stopped yesterday. So we tried looking at what an ethical principle is, and then also I remember us trying to look at the various ethical principles that we need to take care of, or we need to uphold and hold in high esteem so that we can be able to give a good image to the health profession or the nursing profession. So we started by saying that the first one that we need to uphold in high esteem is respect for response. So we look at what respect for response is, and we said, instead of you giving a negative response to criticism in the hospital or in the health setting, you would rather give what? A positive response instead of the negative critics. That is what we call respect for response, and I explained it into details. Then we went on to talk about respect for a person. Respect for a person, we talk about how we need to respect each and everybody irrespective of their belief, irrespective of their cultural background, irrespective of who they are, irrespective of their creed, color, or whatever background that they have. We need to respect all of them. And then also we went on to talk about one of the ethical principles called non-malfeasance. Non-malfeasance is an ethical principle that encourages we the health professionals not to cause any direct harm or indirect harm to our patient. And then we explained that. We went ahead to talk about another principle that we call beneficence. Beneficence. Beneficence is one of the ethical principles that talks about or encourage health professionals, including we the nurses, to do everything humanly possible so that we can be able to give the best to our client or our patient. So I went on to talk about how we need to uphold the ethical principle of human rights. We need to respect the right of all our patients from every background. We also need to respect the autonomy or decision-making ability of our patients. We should not always make decisions for our patient, but we should allow our patient to make their own informed decision. And I explained that one also. And I also talk about how we need to respect the integrity of our patient, how we need to make sure that things that boils down to their integrity are actually respected, irrespective of who they are. We talk about that one also. We talk about truthfulness, how we need to be truthful with informations pertaining to the patient, how we should not beat about the bush whenever we are giving first-hand information to the patient. So that will give them a clearer understanding of what they are going through, not only treating them without explaining what we are treating, not only attending to them without explaining what actually that is wrong with them. So we talk about that one also. And then also we talk about confidentiality. Confidentiality, we said, it is the ability for we the health professional to keep informations of our patient secretly. We need to keep it under lock or confidentially without any third party hearing about it, without any third person or any second person knowing about it. So we went on by talking about what? Passion. That we as health professionals, one of our ethical principle is to get to a stage where we can develop more passion in the nursing work. We can develop more passion in the health work. So out of the passion, we can be able to what? Give the best to our patient. Because the nursing work as it is a very tedious job, it's a very frustrating job, it's a very, very stressing job, but at the end of the day, it's very much lucrative. When I say lucrative, it brings much food onto your table. So you need to put much effort in the work that you do. You need to add a little bit of passion to the work that you do so that at the end of the day, you can be able to give the best to your patient. Under the passion, we talk about how we need to sympathize, how we need to develop the skills of sympathy, how we need to develop the skills of empathy. And I explained that both sympathy and empathy, they are two different things, but are almost similar. Okay, for sympathy, you show much concern about the patient. You show much concern about the patient's condition, and then you let the person know the hopes that are available. You let the person know how you are ready to care for them. But for empathy, you put yourself in the person's pain. You put yourself in the person's shoe. So once you put yourself in the person's pain or shoe, you will be able to feel compassion. You will be able to feel that deep passion to help the person to come out of the pain. So in the skills of empathy, you will be able to alleviate the pain of the patient with your skills. So it just simply means you will go extra mile in caring for your patient. You will go extra mile in taking care of your patient. You will do everything humanly possible to do the very best that you can do to your patient. It is very important. So today, I will continue with what we call justice. With what we call justice. Justice is one of the ethical principles that we need to uphold. We need to be conscious of. Justice is one of the ethical principles that we need to hold firm. Justice will place us in a situation or in a table or in an environment whereby we can treat each and every patient on an equal level. Not treating this one special, not treating this one special, not neglecting this one, not being partial in treatment. No. So the ethical principle of justice encourage we the health professionals never to be what? Partial in carrying out our duties. When I said for us not to be partial, I mean that we should not neglect some people and attend some people. We should not attend to some people because they dress nice, because they are from this background, because they are from our tribe, because they are from our religion, because we speak the same language, because the person is a white, I am white, and the person is black, I am black, the person is Vambo, I am Vambo, the person is a Caprivian, I am Caprivian, the person is a whichever tribe. No. Over here, we don't look at tribe, we don't look at the creed of the person, we don't look at the color of the person, but instead, we treat everybody on the equal level. The health service that we provide is not scheduled for different personalities. The procedures are the same to everybody. So it is the responsibility of you, the nurse, or that healthcare professional to render your service at the equal level. The same thing you do for John should be the same thing you do for Johnson. The same thing you do for Mercy is the same thing you need to do for Margaret. So there should not be any discrimination among the people that you provided your service to. So you need to follow every details of your procedure in caring for your patient indiscriminatively. So once you discriminate against your patients, once you treat some better than the other, you are actually violating the ethical principle of justice. And at the end of the day, if you are found guilty, the ethical principle of justice will hold you accountable. The nursing council will hold you accountable. The law legislation or the law court will hold you accountable. So let us not be one discriminative. Let us not be impartial or being partial to different kind of people. Instead, let us, sorry for the interrupting. Instead, let us be fair in carrying out our duties. Let us be fair in carrying out our nursing services. I believe I'm speaking to nurses. I believe I'm speaking to nursing students. And I believe that I'm speaking to people who are aspiring to be a nurse. So if you are aspiring to be a nurse, one of the ethical principles you need to uphold firmly is an ethical principle of what? Justice. So be justice and be fair, not being partial, not being discriminative to all your patients. So by so doing, you can be able to what? To render a quality and effective or perhaps efficient nursing services to your patient. So now the next thing that I would like us to talk about is what? Professional competency and self-improvement. Professional competencies and self-improvement is one of the ethical principles that we need to always adhere to and make sure we practice them. When we talk about professional competency, it's the ability of you, the professional, to learn all what we are teaching you now and put them into practice and behave like that professional. So in your way of carrying out your duties, you need to become professional in justice. You need to become professional in malfeasance. You need to become professional in beneficence. You need to become professional in respecting human rights. You need to become professional in protecting the integrity of your patient. You need to become professional in what? Maintaining the confidentiality of your patient's information. So that is how you become more competent. When you practice them, it makes you that good professional out there. It makes you that good nurse out there. But any deficiency in this ethical principle will make you a bad professional or a professional without competence. Then also, you need to possess high level of knowledge, high level of skills. You need to possess more skills around your job description. You need to provide more skills, more knowledge. You need to acquire more knowledge and skills around your job description. So if you are an enrolled nurse, if you are an auxiliary nurse, what is your job description? So you need to educate yourself more to become more knowledgeable in the areas of your job description. So once you come to work, you don't need your in charge to tell you that you are supposed to do this, you are supposed to do this, you are supposed to do this, you are supposed to do that before you start doing them. But as professional as you are, once you come to work, you already know your job. You just start doing your job, always above your job, doing your job with joy and happiness. Those are the professional skills that we are talking about. Those are the professional competency that we are talking about. So as hard professionals as we are, we need to acquire more competencies. We need to acquire more knowledge. We need to acquire more skills in our job area so that we can be above our job. If you are an auxiliary nurse, what is your job? You need to know your job in the world. You need to know your job in the nursing environment. You need to know your job in the nursing faculty or the health institution. You need to know your job criteria. So always you need to read around your job prescription. You need to read around your job description. You need to read around what you are supposed to do each and every single day. Then once you are doing it, you are putting out all the smile, you are exhibiting all the skill, professional skills. You do the thing as if you own your own job. The same way I am smiling, I am putting on all the face, I am putting on all the smiling face whilst teaching you in the comfort of your home. It simply means I become more competent in the things that I do. And one thing competence does for you is to give you the room to become more bold and more vocal in the things that you do. Lack of competency will make you get shaken in the things that you do. No. So your high level of competency that comes with your level of knowledge, your level of skills, and your ability to perform every given task will give you that high level of morale, high level of energy. So whilst you are carrying out your duties, you know what you are basically doing. That is the competency that the health council required us as health professionals to be able to adopt so that we can be able to render the best to our patient. Self-improvement. Yes, of course. Self-improvement is also an aspect that we need to improve each and every single day. Each and every single day gives us a room to improve in the areas that we know we are struggling with. In our job competency, we need to keep on improving ourselves. The more we learn through workshops, the more we improve ourselves. The more we educate ourselves, the more we improve our abilities, our skills, our knowledge in our job area. So self-improvement is necessary, even in the job field. Automatically, day in, day out, you will come across cases of people that you learn from. You will come across complications that happen during the hospital that you will learn from. You will come across incidences that happen in the health facility that you will learn out. So the job market also give you much experience. That is, if you are ready to learn from the job market. So those are some of the things that we need to what? To protect. Those are some of the things we need to what? To uphold in high esteem. I used to tell most of my students that what gives you a job is not your certificate. Your certificate is just an evidence that you have completed a school. Certificate doesn't give you a job, but what gives you a job is your level of knowledge. Because when you go to the interview, the questions that they will ask you are not on your certificate. The question that they will ask you, they will not ask you based on your qualification, but they will ask you questions based on your level of knowledge in the job market, in the job area. So you need to cultivate the habit of reading. You need to cultivate the habit of learning more. You need to cultivate the habit of what? Reading around your job description each and every single day, learning new things that will put you in an advantage position more better than somebody. And one of the ways we get promotion at our workplaces is by what? Is by advancing our knowledge and begin to put that advanced knowledge into practice. And once our authorities are seeing the improvement, that is when promotion comes in. So those are some of the competent areas that we want you to work on, we want you to develop, even with your studies. The more you read, the more you become more knowledgeable. The less you read, the less you lack knowledge, the less you lack skills. So you need to read more in order to be able to what? Develop more skills. Sorry? So one of the things that we also need to know is that the protection of our patient, we need to learn to provide privacy of our patient, and we also need to learn to what? To protect our patient. That is a sole responsibility of we the health professionals, because when the family members bring their persons or individual or their people to the hospital, they will go home. The protection of their family members now lies in the hands of you, the health professional. So first, you need to always make sure you protect the privacy of your patient. Two, you provide privacy to your patient. I said one, you need to protect the privacy of your patient. Secondly, you need to provide privacy to your patient. You need to give space for the patient to breathe. There are times when the patient needs to be alone. Learn to understand that the patient needs to be alone. There are times that the patient will need your attention. Learn to give your attention to the patient. There are times that the patient will just like to walk over through the things that are happening to her. She would like to be alone to think through all over. Learn to respect that. And if the patient is in the ward and you happen that the patient's clothing are removed, or one part of the patient's clothing is removed and any part of the patient is showing, it is your responsibility to immediately cover the patient nicely. Sometimes some patients may give up on themselves because of the situation that they are going through, because of the life challenges that they are facing. They don't care about themselves anymore. That is when you, the health worker, comes in to protect the privacy. Sometimes they will just neglect themselves there without even covering themselves. That is where you come in. So immediately, you need to cover the patient. Immediately, you need to what? Explain to the patient why her privacy is very important. So these are all the things we need to do to make the patient looks more comfortable. For the patient to have that room of comfortability. So by so doing, we can be able to render the best protection in such a way that we should make sure we rule out all possibility of any item or any instrument or anything that will cause direct injury to our patient. If the floor is wet, our patient can fall down. Our patient can slip and fall down, hit the head on the floor, the head can be broken, or can hit the occiput on the floor and the patient can run into coma. At the end of the day, we are harming our patient. So we need to make sure we keep the floor clean, dry up all the time. We need to make sure we rule out all means of nosocomial infections in the world. When I talk about nosocomial infections, is infections that we get from what? Patient to patient, patient to staff, patient to other instrument, or staff to other instrument. We need to rule out all those things. That is why infection prevention protocols must also be adhered to, which is very necessary for all our health professionals. If the patient is aggressive, there are ways that we handle aggressive, or there are ways we deal with what? Aggression management or anger management. So we need to be able to restrain the patient. How do we restrain the patient? These are professional skills that we need to possess. Either restraining the patient onto the bed, or looking for more hands of staff to restrain the patient on the bed, and the necessary injections will be given to calm the patient. And if your patient is the type that can easily fall from the bed, then you need to use the bed cradles so that you can be able to what? To support the bed, raise the bed cradles at the side of the bed and at the edge of the bed so that the patient may not be able to fall. So these are some of the ways we protect our patients. So the protection of our patient is very, very important. One of the ways we protect our patient is through hand washing procedures all the time, before and after every procedure that we carry out. And when we are about to dish out medication, sometimes you will see professionals just come from their house straight, no hand washing, nothing. They straight go to serve patient medication. At the end of the day, we can be able to what? Cause more infection. We can be able to cause harm to our patient through that. So in here, we encourage washing of our hands regularly before we touch the patient's medication or before we start any procedure on the patient. In between, we have to use our hand sanitizers to always render our hands free from what? Any microbial infection or any microbe or microscopic infections or whatever it is called, or any microbial contamination or infection that we can be able to transmit from our hands onto the patients. So it is very important to all of us to uphold this high level of what competency in rendering our nursing services to our patients. If there are any questions in the message column, engage the message column so that I will be able to know. If you are understanding, let me know that you are understanding the areas where you are not understanding so that I can be able to recap or revisit them. Okay. So if you don't send me any messages, it just simply means, one, you understand what I'm trying to teach you. Secondly, you don't understand what I'm teaching you. Sorry. So please engage the comment box. Those who are online, engage the comment box. And those who read this later on also engage the comment box so that I can be able to later see all those questions and then address them. Like for instance, yesterday somebody commented on the message box later on that said, what is called harm? Harm simply means causing the patient or inflicting injury on our patient, causing our patient much injury or inflicting injury on our patient. Injury can come in the form of what? Wound. Can come in the form of what? Wound. Injury can come in the form of what? Maybe an infection. Injury can come in any type of forms. And if our patient also fall on the bed, it's also a form of injury. Then you will hear the in-charge telling us to write incident report about the things that happen. So that is what harm is. So anything that you will do that will affect your patient negatively is called a harm. So that is the explanation for that. So I will continue by introducing the next topic that we need to deal with, which is called ethical reasoning. Our next question or our next ethical principle or values that we will look at is what we call ethical reasoning. Ethical reasoning. So basically, ethical reasoning are the core values and standards that we need to put in place to guide our professions, to guide the work that we do, to guide the way we go about things, to guide our decision makings, to guide our analysis. So ethical reasoning will adopt all the ethical principles in rendering our services to our patients. Now, these are two words being put together. We have ethical and we have reasoning. Reasoning simply means you need to be able to think about something to come about a solution. So, ethical principle, you need to put the ethical principle into practice, and in case of any situation, in case of any eventualities, in case of any incidents, you can be able to reason around the ethical principles to be able to come about an assessment or gather enough information. Then after the information, you identify where the problem is coming from. After the problem, you assess, then you can be able to provide a solution. So that is how ethical reasoning works. So these are general guidelines that protect the work that we do, that guide the work that we do, that makes us feel more comfortable with our services that we provided. So our ethical reasoning gives us room to make what? A practical decision or choices over a situation in the world or over a situation that we encounter in the healthcare setting. So for instance, if you are in the ward and you are in the children's ward and the child spike temperature or the child's body temperature is very high, so as of then, your ethical reasoning will tell you what and what to do next. So you need to be able to think fast to come about a solution. So over here, what is the problem? The problem is that the child's body temperature is very high, above normal body temperature of 36 degrees Celsius. So if a child's body temperature is at 39 degrees Celsius, then what must you do as a health professional? Then you need to think quickly to come about an assessment. Then you need to follow the nursing procedures or the nursing process. First is assessment. After an assessment, you need to do what? You need to diagnose what is the problem. Assessment comes in getting information. So you need to gather more information around the problem. Okay, when did the child spike temperature? How is the temperature or how is the body temperature of the child now? Are there any signs and symptoms that are showing now? Is the child about to convulse or is the child shaking? Is the child's body too much hot? Okay, that is the assessment that you need to do. Then at the end of the day, you will diagnose and come to a conclusion that the child is actually having a high body temperature. When the child is having a high body temperature, what will you do then? Then you have to what? Plan. After diagnosis, you will plan. So in this scenario, what will you plan for? Then you will plan on how to reduce the body temperature back to normal. Of your planning, you will come up, okay, what do we normally used to do? Okay, then we need to what? Tepe sponge the child. It just simply means looking for a lukewarm water, which is not too cold, which is not too hot, in between, and then use that water by pouring it on the child, starting from the sole of the feet up to the head. Somebody will ask, why do we need to start from the sole of the feet? There are nerves that come from the brain down to the sole of the feet. So once you start pouring the lukewarm water on the sole of the feet, it will carry the coldness through the nerves from the sole of the feet to the brain, which will prevent the child from what? Convulsion. But if you pour the water on the child, on the head of the child, whilst the body temperature is very high at 39 degrees Celsius, the child will run into shock and the child will begin to convulse, because as at that time, the heat regulating center in the brain is already hot. So it's more or less like you put a cooking pot or a silver on fire. The silver is very hot. When you pour water in it, how does it react? It reacts to it badly. Like that. The same way, the same mechanism that happens in the brain when the heat regulating center of the brain is very high or very hot, and then you pour the water on the patient, immediately the child will convulse, and if you don't take time, you will lose the child or the child will die. This also happened to the elderly ones in the hospital when they develop rigor. Rigor simply means when the body temperature is above normal, then you will see these elderly ones also begin to shave, which go through 3 stages, and you have to manage them through the 3 stages. So you, the health professional, you need to acquire these competencies in managing this patient so that you can reduce the body temperature. Then that will be your plan. So after all this plan, then you have to implement, you have to put the plan into action. So the process of you putting the plan into action will actually reduce the body temperature back towards a normal range between 36.0 degrees Celsius or within that range. Then after that, you have done a good job. So your ethical reasoning will make you to take a practical decision or choice within a specific incident. This is why we need to become more knowledgeable and more competent and more skillful in our job area. So these are some of the scenarios that I'm giving to you now, and it is practicable. You can also learn them, read more about them, then you can be able to practice them. So this is how ethical reasoning helps us to achieve a perfect work in the world. What is needed is ethical reasoning in our daily choice of activities that we do. What is needed is ethical reasoning. So we need to understand that our practical reasons or how we come about practical resolution or solution depends on our ability to use our ethical reason efficiently or in the right direction. So in ethical reasoning, there are 4 steps that are involved in ethical reasoning. There are 4 steps that are involved in ethical reasoning. The first step that we will talk about is the first stage, which is known as what? The problem. The problem. So for you to engage your ethical reasoning, you need to first identify a problem. So the scenario I give you about the child having a high body temperature, what is the problem there? The child is having a high body temperature. So that is the problem. So our ability to do assessment to come about the problem is very, very important. So the first stage of ethical reasoning is what? Identification of the problem. So we need to identify what the problem is. Then, before we can be able to what? To think around within the context of what? Ethical reasoning to come about a solution. So first, we need to formulate the problem. What is the problem? We need to find out what the problem is. And we need to understand the problem from the source. We need to understand, okay, what brings about the problem? Is it that, okay, if the child's body temperature is very high, what could be the cause of irregular body temperature? Or what could be the cause for the body temperature to be very high? Is it that the child is having an infection? Then we rule out all possibilities of infection. Is it that the child did not eat on time? Or is it that the child is having a reactions with maybe probably 1 or 2 medications that they have given the child? Or is it that there is any microbial infection that has entered the child's body? We look at all those things, so we should be able to formulate or come about with how the problem happened. And all these things will happen within a twinkle of minutes, not just using 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours or the whole day to be thinking about. No. Once you are in the world and you encounter this problem, you will be thinking around to see how possible you will be able to come about a solution. So the first stage of ethical reasoning is the identification of the problem. Then once you identify the problem, then you begin to go to the next stage, that is what? Information. The next steps is what? Getting information. Now you identify the problem, so you need to read around the problem. You need to read around, gather more informations, collate the information, put them into order, interpret the relevant data or the data's information that you get into what? A meaningful information. So definitely you will get different kinds of what? Data. After you get the different types of data, you need to bring all of them, analyze them, collate them. Collation simply means put all of them together. Then you can be able to what? To formulate a concrete information to know that, okay, this is where the problem is coming from. And in doing that, you need to gather information on a clinical perspective of the patient. What are the clinical possibilities of the infection? Could it be the child is infected? Could it be any microbial infection has entered the body? Could it be that the child's body temperature is going high as a result of this? Then also we need to get much information on a personal level. What could have also contributed to higher body temperature on a personal level? Is it that the mother gives any food that is contaminated to the child from the house? Is it that the mother did not practice personal hygiene whilst feeding the child? We look at all those things. And then also in the society, we get information from the perspective of the society. How is their sanitation background is? How is their sanitation environment is in their house? What kind of water do they drink? Under which environment do they prepare their foods? Under which kind of environment do they live? We gather much information from all those aspects. So a holistic approach on all these areas will give us a concrete answer to know that, okay, the patient actually was suffering from so and so, so and so, so and so. So that is how we need to get information. Then, once we get the information, then it will lead us to the next step, which is the third step under ethical reasoning, which is taking the necessary option. The next step is what? Taking the necessary options. So you need to take the necessary what? Options. So after gathering all the information, what are the necessary options available? And what are the options that we can consider in taking care of the patient? We need to look across all those things. We need to consider all those areas and pick the best options available based on the circumstances, based on the problem at hand, based on the case at hand. Then at that age, it will lead us toward to the final stage or the final step of ethical reasoning, which we call moral assessment. Moral assessment. So in moral assessment, as the last step of ethical reasoning, we will consider the ethical content of each of the options available. We will consider the ethical content. We will weigh the options, consider the ethical content within the options that we've chosen. What are the possible ways that we can violate the ethical principles? What are the possible ways that we can uphold the ethical principles? So over here, we need to weigh the ethical content of each of the options. And in weighing or in considering the ethical content of each of the options that are available, we need to first look at what is likely to be the consequence of those actions that we are about to take. What are the possible consequences of each options that are available for us to take? When I talk about consequences, I mean what are some of the repercussions or what are some of the likely problems that will come along with all the options that we are taking. Then we also need to what? To consider the most important values, the most important duties and rights of the client in taking these decisions. Don't forget, we said the last stage is to consider what? The moral assessment, which gave us what? The options that are available. And in picking the best option, we need to consider the possible problem that comes with the options. And then also we need to consider the cultural values, the beliefs, and the rights of the patient before we will be able to take any decision. Then also we need to what? To consider and evaluate the weaknesses of what? Of our views concerning the option that we are about to take. Of course, every option have their strengths and their weaknesses. So we need to consider the weaknesses of the options. We need to consider the strength of the options as well, so that we can be able to pick the best option out of all the options that are available. Then finally, in making the moral assessment, in picking the right options, we need to know how we want to treat the patient in the circumstances that the patient is. Our action plans. We need to consider our action plans. What are the plans that we have in managing our patient? So if you are a nurse, that is when nursing care plan comes in, where you will draw an action plan on the things that you want to see to improve, the things that you wanted to place much attention on. If the patient is struggling in self-esteem, if the patient is struggling in eating, if the patient is struggling in sleeping, if the patient is struggling in bathing or taking their medication, or there is a wound there that you need to be dressing all the time, you will draw action plan for the wound. So we need to consider all those actions before taking the right options in order for us to be able to help our patients. So with all these, we will be able to render a perfect healthcare services to our patients. So on this note, I will be ending here today, and I will invite questions. If you have any questions, you can be able to ask. If you have any questions, you can be able to ask. If you have any question, you can say, sir, I have a question. I will invite you onto the screen and you can be able to ask your question, and I'll be able to answer you. Or if you don't want to come on the screen, you can also be able to put your questions in the message box or the question box, so that I can be able to answer all your questions pertaining to all what we have learned, pertaining to professional competency, pertaining to self-improvement, and then also providing privacy and protection for our patient. And then what is ethical reasoning, and how does ethical reasoning help us in getting our job done? How does the ethical reasoning help us to what? To take a practical decision based on what we are facing in the world. Okay, so if you are online, you can be able to let me know, so that I can be able to I can be able to bring you online, so that you can be able to ask your questions. If you want to ask a question, you can be able to let me know you can be able to let me know. You can be able to let me know. So you can send me a request. You can send me a request. You can send me a friend request, and I'll be able to let you come on. Okay. So somebody asked, sir, what is professional competencies and self-improvement? So I'm just going to repeat that one again. Somebody just asked that what is professional competencies and self-improvement. We are saying that professional competencies is for you to acquire more knowledge and more skills to be able to fit around your job description. So when you are carrying out your job description, you will always be on top of your job. You will perform your job like you own the job. So when you possess more knowledge and skills around your job description, you will not hesitate, or you will not wait for the you are in charge to tell you that this is what you are supposed to do, this and what you are supposed to do before you start to do them. But once you have adequate knowledge as a professional, you are more competent in your job area. What you do is you strictly go straight to your work. Once you come to work, you start to do your work in a happy atmosphere, like how some people say work and happiness. You are happy whilst doing your job, put on all the smiling, like that atmosphere where you do everything so passionately. So self-improvement is your ability to acquire more knowledge in the job area so that you can become more knowledgeable. So in there, you will be improving each and every single day in all aspects of your job criteria. So that is what self-improvement is. And it comes through workshops, and it also comes through conferences. It also comes through when they organize conferences for people. It also can come through your self-improvement, can come through all the workshops that you go to and all the knowledge you acquire during your workshop, or when you have a good in charge, you can be able to ask questions to your in charge, and your in charge will be able to explain all the areas you want to have more competence in. When I was in the world, probably those times, what I normally do is once we have a little time, I make sure I ask questions so that I can be able to explain to my junior staffs. And I encourage them to always ask questions in areas where they want to have more knowledge. So once they ask the question, I make sure I have time to explain to them whenever we have time at the workplace. And more so ever, when we are carrying out any procedure, and I know I have junior staffs with me who are new, who are not competent in those areas, I keep on explaining and talking and explaining to them whilst we are carrying out the activities. So by so doing, they are also learning in the process. Like I said, one of the ways that you need to become more professionally competent in your job area is the job market. So the job market actually remold you to actually become what they are expecting you to be. So that aspect is very, very important. That aspect is very, very important. So that is what it means by what? Attaining professional competencies and self-improvement. That is what it means. Is there any more question? Is there any more question? If you have any question, put it at the message column for me. Julia, have I explained the question to your understanding? If yes, just signal me yes. Okay. 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 So in the Nalego, definitely the school will refer to you. The school will refer to you. The school will get back to you. The school will get back to you. In Dina, the school will get back to you. And also what we need from you is your contact number, so you can pick the contact number of the school and then give us a call, and then we'll take it from there. The school will refer back to you and we'll take it from there. Okay. If there is any aspect, please, if there is any questions, it's time for questioning now. If you have any questions, put it in the question column. If you think I can invite you to the stage, nobody has given me a friend request right now. You need to send me a friend request. You need to send me a request so that I can invite you all over to ask all your questions that you want to ask, or you engage in the question box so that I can be able to get your questions and answer you. So in the next few minutes, we are going to bring our lessons to a closure, but I want to give this opportunity for you guys to ask questions so that I can be able to explain to you. If there is anything that I've said so far, also based on the steps involved in ethical reasoning, you should be able to ask so that I will be able to explain to you. If you have any questions, this is the time for you to ask so that I can be able to explain to you. We have just barely 1 minute to go. If you have any questions, put it at the message column so that we can be able to answer you. Okay. I believe everything is clear to all the students, and I believe everybody has acquired enough knowledge through so far what we have discussed pertaining to ethics in nursing, or ethical values or principles or standard that governs with the health professionals. So from tomorrow, same time by this time, I will continue, and then at the end of the day, we will keep on learning up to next week that you will be writing your exam. Okay, it is very, very important until next week that you will be writing your exams. So before I leave you, those of you who are in Valvis Bay, please keep safe, take all the precautionary measures, wear your mask all the time, sanitize your hands all the time, and be safe for us. We need you and you need us. So be safe for us. Please be in peace, not in pieces. So on this note, we say goodbye for today. My name still remains Mr. Prince. I am your lecturer for the day. God bless you. Bye-bye.